rev up your engines for the Mid-Michigan Biker Podcast with Big E. Proudly sponsored by Christensen Law, where bikers helping engine bikers is more than just a motto. It's our commitment to the biker community. Be sure to tune in and listen to the latest news and biker buzz. And for all your personal injury needs, be sure to contact the Christensen Law team at 248-900-9000. What's up, bikers? It's Big E, and you're listening to the Mid-Michigan Biker Podcast. We're talking all things bikes, the freedom of the road, and the brotherhood that makes this lifestyle what it is. From killer tips to wild stories from the highway, we've got it all right here. Life is short, bikers, so let's get after it. Hey everybody, welcome to this week's podcast. We're continuing our 10-part series on the Wyld Stallions motorcycle build-off. This week, we're going to talk to Terry Scott, who has actually been in all three of the build-offs. Terry, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks.
So you are one of the veteran builders when it comes to the Wyld Stallions motorcycle build. You've been in all of them so far.
Yep.
How did you do the first year?
Last place.
Last place? What about last year?
I did pretty good. Look, that good amount of votes look like in my bucket.
Yeah.
So I built a Triumph last year, so
Sweet.
did pretty good at the show. So
yeah. You still have it?
Yep. Yeah. I got to finish a couple things up I didn't like on it that I did, so I got to redo, and hopefully I can get it out this spring.
Cool. So, what do you got in store for this year? What are you working on?
I'm building a 1974 Rock Centaur.
Oh. That's a little different, huh?
Yep. Do you? Not a lot of people even know what that is. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, actually, I do. Yeah.
Okay. Not a lot of people do, but some do. But yep.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I've always been a big fan of the trike, especially the Ed Roth ones, and I came across the part of a frame somebody had started a project on, and I acquired it quite a few years back, and it's just been sitting kind of back in the barn and collecting dust, and I figured this would be the perfect time to do it up. So
yeah. Wow, that's going to be really cool. Yeah. Yeah.
threw you for a loop there, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. That's pretty cool. That's really cool. Wow. So, what did you, yeah, wow, that really threw me for a loop. Wow. That's going to be something that, yeah, I'm really excited now. All the builders have got some really cool ideas and stuff, and now that one just threw me for a loop big time. That's gonna be pretty sweet.
Yeah, I plan on doing the a Volkswagen engine conversion to it, because they came from factory, came with 340cc two-stroke Kohlers. And one of the reasons why the bike didn't make it or survive was because of that engine. It just was not meant for street use. And they, if you even find one with the engine in it still, it's kind of rare, let alone they're not super popular bikes to start with. So.
Right. Yeah, that could be really sick, dude.
Yeah. Big old tires in the back.
Yeah, that could be sick. Yeah, I like that. That's
thinking you'll be riding about 8 inches off the ground.
Yeah, that's
from where you sit. So
that's gonna be pretty sick, dude. Yeah. No, I don't. Yeah, that's gonna totally. So you're. Wow. Yeah, that could really be a game changer right there. Them are just sweet. And like you said, pretty rare.
Yeah. But the thing is like with some things, people hear rare and they think they're worth a lot, man. They're rare, but they're just not worth much. I mean, Elvis Presley owned one, and his went up for auction. The one he owned, it was in pristine condition, and that only went for like $7,000. So
yeah, it's not
they're
like
not real
a sought after thing, but it's just you don't see them.
No, but that way nobody's worried about me cutting up some super rare, super expensive. It's already was mangled to start with.
Right.
Somebody already cut it apart, and it's not worth a lot to start with. But I think it would make a really sweet bike.
Yeah, I mean, done upright, it could be really, really cool. So what is your daily rider right now? What do you have a go-to daily?
I got a 81 Honda CB 750 bobber, and I got a 77 Honda Mavic CB 750 I ride. I have a bad foot. I can't shift anymore with my left foot because of lost use of my ankle and some of my foot. So I had to, for my Honda bobber, this 81, I had to build special foot controls for it.
Oh.
So I could ride it still. Heel toe shifter deal and that.
Right.
But a couple of years ago, I picked up a Honda Max, so I could still ride that around. Just, throw it in gear, and I'm all set to go. So
good to go, yeah. Yeah, that was kind of a unique bike, too. The old Honda Matic. Never really caught on, I don't think.
No, it really didn't.
But
half the fun of riding shifting, but I mean, I couldn't do that. Ain't really that much anymore, so I went that route.
That's
so
pretty
I could
cool.
Still ride at least.
My dad was a Honda guy. All growing up. I mean, I've had a lot of Hondas. They're so reliable, it's not even funny. So yeah, that's cool though. All right, so let's delve into these 10 questions that I've been asking everybody and get that rolling here. So what's your initial vision for your build and how do you see it evolving?
Okay. So, well, right now, I'm really, for those who don't know, Ruts and Tars was a factory trike, produced trike. So basically, I'm just something low, sleek, big tires in the back, kind of like a Hot Wheels car type of thing.
Right.
Like the old VWs that trikes that at Roth and those guys built in the early 70s.
Right.
Something like with a vibe like that.
I said that could be really cool. Done upright. And they only made that for like 2 years, I think, too.
Yep. Yeah. 74 and 75.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's going to be pretty cool. So what inspired your theme or style for this year's bike? Obviously, you just kind of said that that kind of 70s trike look.
Yeah, like I said, I've always wanted to build a trike. I'm kind of, with my bad foot and all that, for the trike would be a little bit easier to ride, and it's not a Harley. It's
right.
Like everyone else is going to be building, so totally something different. So, hopefully catch, especially with what it is. So hopefully catch some people's eyes right away.
They're definitely different looking. They don't, they are definitely different looking. So what's the first part of the build you're focusing on?
Well, I've learned from the past two builds that as I was kind of like, we go with the flow a little bit, try something, see if I liked it. If I didn't like it, I try something else.
Right.
Well, finding out with the timeline, I ended up eating a lot of time up, just doing things and redoing because I didn't like them. So right now I'm just concentrating on getting my plan, how am I going to mount the engine? What do I need to get materials wise to do that? What am I going to need for this materials? Kind of figure out what color I'm going to paint it now. So that way I can just stick to my plan. And my hardest thing is sticking to the plan, but that's my goal. That's what I'm trying right now, is just kind of get it designed out, figured out, and get my plan going so I can stick to it. Because otherwise I'll end up doing stuff 2 or 3 times that I don't really need to do just because, I get this wild hair or like, oh, let's try this instead. No, just sticking to the goal or the plan. And that's what I'm working on right this second.
Right. So how do you approach planning and sketching out your ideas before the build?
Well, basically I just went out to, got the bike sitting up out on jack stands because of what it is.
Right.
Went out there and go, okay, well, what's going to be the best way for me to mount that rear frame section for it, for the motor and transaxle and that, and then figure out what's going to work best for me. Like, okay, how am I going to mount? Okay, well, I'm going to need to go get some of this and this and this and, do this to it. So you're going, okay, so now I got to go, make sure to go hit the metal supply, when I get a chance and
so
stuff like that.
You don't sit down with a pad of paper and sketch it all out or anything. You just kind of look at it, eyeball it, and kind of go from there.
Yeah.
That seems to be what most builders do, it seems like. Everyone I've talked to so far has pretty much had that same method.
Yeah. Like I said, the only bad thing about that method is just, you can very easily, like my first year, the bike I built a little Yamaha bobber. And I thought, okay, well, hell, I'll build the back section out of square tubing, but put it on its side so it's diamond shape.
Mm-hmm.
I spent like a month, trying to figure out how I'm going to bend the mat, get nice curves out of that tubing at the diamond shape and all this, and tried a different bunch of things. And, and then ended up going, and I never liked the way it looked when I tried doing it. It's like I ended up wasting a whole month just, doing that. And then at the last minute, crunch time, and I'm hurrying and, trying not to cut corners so I can get stuff done. And
right.
So that's the biggest thing. That's the hardest part about just doing it in your head. I think it's just making sure to stay focused on your path. You stay focused, stay on your path.
So what do you think will be the most challenging aspect of this build?
Staying on path.
Yeah.
Staying focused.
All right.
That, and I got the engine for it. It's been sitting in the back of the barn when I got that a little bit after I got the frame, and I haven't touched the engine here, so I'm hoping it's not froze up.
Yeah.
So that's going to be the two things. Otherwise, I'm looking for a VW engine real quick.
Right. Do you have any specific materials or techniques you're excited to experiment with this year?
No, not really. I'm just kind of, my thing is just building a trike instead of,
right.
So I've never built one of those. That's one of the few things I haven't. So
how many bikes have you built?
Well, I built the last couple of years. I built one for each year. That then off and on, I've built bikes my whole life.
Yeah,
I've worked on hot rods and race cars and bikes since I was a little kid.
Oh, that's cool. So you come by it rightly.
Yeah.
So how do you prioritize functionality versus aesthetics at this early age? So function over looks.
Well, see, that's back to being on the path and having your plan. My plan right now is just making sure everything's functional and it's safe, because, I want to be able to freaking do 60, 70 miles an hour. And I'm going to be, like I said, 6 to 8 inches off the ground.
Right.
and there's not much in front of you on that type of bike. So function is going to be the big thing, and then I think just the aesthetics will come naturally with what I'm building.
Yeah, they're pretty unique looking. So it's
right,
and
cool. Then you just like I said, just add the monster tires to the back of it, and I'm not going to use the full body on it. I'm cutting the back half of the body off.
Oh.
And just using the front half of the body, basically where the cockpit or where you would sit is.
Yeah.
So the part that went over the tires and over the engine is going to be all open.
Oh, cool.
As of right now. Because I figured if we're going to do that, you might as well be able to see the engine. Right. Hide it.
Right. So is there anything you've learned from your past builds that you're applying to this year? This one from the start, or?
Just like I said, getting a plan and trying to stick to it, because that's where me personally, that's where, I would screw up. Because I would, just would run out of time because I messed around with stuff too long. That and the other thing, which I'm making sure everything is that I got for it will work. Last year on the Triumph I built, I got down to the last minute. I had a basket case Triumph I bought. And so I went ahead and did the hardtail on it. No big deal. And then I went ahead and stretched out the frame in the front and did all that. And when the basket parts I had an oil tank in it. I looked at it, hey, this is a nice tank. I'll use this. Came with the bike, so I figured it would fit.
Right.
I never test fitted the oil tank. Literally the day before I'm doing final assembly, going to put the oil tank in, and found out the oil tank wouldn't fit. It was too big.
No. So what did you do?
Yes. I just entered the bike without the oil tank hooked up to it.
Oh.
Because there was nothing I could do. I mean,
right.
Tank I had, was all oily inside, so there was no way I could get a nice weld on it. So I had to start over. There was no way I could find an oil tank in less than 24 hours to put in there. So I just entered the bike without the oil tank on it.
And you have since put the oil tank on it, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I got that all taken care of. But but that's when I'm going to go ahead and make sure everything is going to work instead of just assuming I made an assumption. And what happens when you do that?
Mm-hmm.
So
all too well.
Yeah. So basically, just sticking to my plan, and then I'm just making sure everything's going to work ahead of time, so that way I don't have a surprise at the last minute like I did last year.
Right. So what's the most exciting part of starting a new build for you?
The designing and building, coming up with the ideas, what I want to build in my head.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've been for like the last week, I've built this bike in my head probably 100 times at least already.
Right. Well, it's definitely going to be unique looking, that's for sure. If anyone is wondering what they look like, you can actually Google a Centaur trike, and you'll get a pretty good idea what he's starting with.
Yeah,
and they're pretty sweet looking.
Yeah, I was actually I wish they would have had a little more success with it. It would have been at least a little bit more interesting piece of motorcycle history.
Right. Yeah.
Might have even changed the industry just a little bit if it would have succeeded.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's not your typical looking trike for sure. The whole cockpit design is something different, I think. Pretty sweet looking. It'll be pretty cool. I'm excited to see what you end up turning out. So are you planning on riding it in? You're probably one of the closest builders to the actual show, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah, because Ovid is just outside of Wausau, heading towards St. John's.
Right.
That way. So it's probably, 10 miles at that outside of Wausau, so it's not far.
Not far for you at all.
No, if it's up and running, I will probably drive it in, because it might, I don't know if I want to hassle with it being as big as it is. If I want to hassle with trying to trailer it anyway, especially if it does run. I can sneak in the back way into town and get to the show. So
how do you feel about the timeline for the build? Do you think you have enough time? Do you think they give you enough time?
Yeah, I think they do. It just, like I said, just not being wise with your time is the biggest obstacle. I don't think the amount of time is really the problem.
I've heard mixed. It seems like most people are pretty satisfied with the amount of time. I've only had one. I think one builder said something that he was worried about the deadline time. One of the other guys is like, well, my bike will be done way before that. I have to have it done by this. I'm like, wow, that's like just a couple months from now, dude. Yep, it'll be done.
Like, I hope he gets it done.
Yeah,
no problems.
Yeah. So, have you taken any of your bikes to any other shows?
No, not really.
No.
No.
Do you have a favorite show?
The Wausau Vintage Days show.
That's your favorite, eh?
Yeah.
That's cool. I have never been to that one, so I'm excited to be there this year. I'm actually going to Mama Tried. By the time this airs, I'll have already been there, but I'm going to go there this week, be this coming weekend. We'll be headed to Milwaukee for that.
I'd like to someday maybe try to get out to see the Born Free show out in Cali, but that would be about it.
Yeah. Nothing close by that really excites you, show wise.
No.
That's cool.
I've done them for fun and ride. So
right.
If there's a show going on, we can go to it. We'll go, and if not, then so be it. We'll go check out some hot rods then, or instead, or
right. Yeah, that's one thing.
Or just go for a ride. So
that's one thing. If you're sounds like you're a real gearhead or motorhead. You're into cars. You're into bikes. So it's probably tough to prioritize what you want to do when, because it seems like there's always something going on. Motorcycle shows, car shows, stuff like that.
Yeah, that, and I tried to, other than like if I'm working on like this bike here, that I tried to keep Saturdays, Sundays for family time too.
Oh yeah,
if possible. So sometimes family time, I do prioritized over like going to a car show or whatever, but
that's cool.
All right.
Yeah, that's good. Got to spend time with the family.
Yeah.
Now, you have kids?
No.
No kids?
No kids.
Well,
but I got a bunch of nieces and nephews, and I got an elderly father that I help take care of. So a lot of times in the weekend, I'm taking care of him, take him grocery shopping, pay his bills, and take him if he needs to go to Home Depot to get something or whatever little project he's working on. And so I do that a lot.
Well, that takes up a lot of time. Yeah.
So,
but that's good. That's good. Family's important, especially your dad. So, did he pass this passion on to you? Was he into bikes or hot rods and stuff too?
He was into sports cars.
Oh,
mostly. So the hot rods and the bikes I came onto my own.
Well, that's cool. I would say my dad, he had bikes, so I grew up around bikes. But he also, before I was born, he did race sports cars. So he was kind of into that too.
Yeah, and we had dirt bikes as a kid, and I had aunts and uncles they had bikes too. So a lot of times when I was a kid, we'd load the bikes up in the back of the truck and go over to their house on the weekend, and we'd go riding all day on Saturday, and then come back home and do it again. So
I think that a lot of us that's kind of how we got our start, was dirt bikes and mini bikes and stuff. And it just kept growing from there.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you for taking some time out and talking to me tonight. I know we were going to, we tried to do it earlier this week, but I had to work late. So I couldn't do it. But thank you for taking a little bit of time out of your family time and talking with me. And I will send you a link when this episode airs. It'll be a few weeks down the road. So, but you're welcome to listen to all the other builders, kind of see what they got going on too.
Yeah, I've been trying to decide whether I want to or not because.
yeah, I can see that being kind of yeah. I could see that being kind of a mixed thing.
Yeah, I would when the magazine would come because they had us, we'd do our monthly, updates and stuff. The magazine come, I'd hand it to my wife. She would read it over and then ask me if I wanted to read it. And I says, no, not right now. I don't know if I really want to know what everybody else is doing.
Right.
And realize how far behind I actually am, and then get all panicked or something over it. So,
well, the good thing is you got plenty of time right now.
Yep.
So, and I'm really curious as to how yours is going to turn out. That is definitely going to be something unique. So that'll be cool. I like that. That's going to be pretty sweet.
So the big question is, can I pull it off?
You'll be fine. I think you'll be fine. You're a veteran, man. You've been in it for 3 years now. All right, Terry. Well, thanks for taking your time chatting with us and letting us know what you got going on. I'm looking forward to seeing it. So good luck to you.
Okay, thank you.
And thanks for spending your evening with me.
Well, you're welcome. And thanks again.
Yep. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
Bye. Well, there you go, Terry Scott. He's an close to Owasso, Ovid, so right next door with his Rupp Centaur. That's going to be pretty interesting. I encourage you to Google that and look it up. They are really different looking, not your typical looking trike. So it's going to be pretty cool. All right, bikers, that is all for this week. Yeah, life is short, so get after it.
Thanks for listening to the Mid-Michigan Biker Podcast. Remember, bikers, life is short. Get after it.